8K video, 44.3 megapixel photos, 4K 120p full sensor width, blackout-free mechanical shutter, 8 stops image stabilization, cropless electronic image stabilization, and advanced anamorphic stabilization, automatic focus tracking and specific person tracking, capture one tethering, false color, a new LUMIX Flow storyboarding and monitoring app, and that's just what's new with the LUMIX S1R2, right? I don't have it yet. This is the LUMIX S1R, its predecessor, but let's just hit the specs. The S1R2 is the successor to the S1R, one of the earliest LUMIX full-frame cameras and the first LUMIX extra high-resolution full-frame camera. The LUMIX S1R2 has an all-new 44.3 megapixel sensor with 14 stops dynamic range that captures 8K 16:9 and 8.1K 17:9 up to 30p in 10-bit. It also captures 6.4K full sensor downsampled open gate at launch, but will get 8.1K open gate in a firmware update later this year. It records 4K and Cinema 4K, 422, 10-bit, All-Intra up to 60p, and it's the first LUMIX to shoot full frame, full sensor width, 4K 120 frames per second. And yes, that's also in 10-bit. And it even shoots ProRes RAW internally. For still shooters, not only does it capture 44.3 megapixel photos and 177 megapixel high-resolution mode sensor shift photos, it also brings a very interesting first for action shooters, blackout-free mechanical shutter. When using mechanical shutter, obviously the shutter closes between photos, blocking your view of the scene. So instead of seeing nothing, the S1R2 displays the shot you just captured while the shutter is closed. Super interesting, and I can't wait to try that out. It can shoot up to 10 frames per second in mechanical shutter and up to 40 frames per second in electronic shutter. Up to 8 stops of image stabilization. 8 stops! That's more than the GH7 has, and you can run while hand-holding that camera and still get a smooth shot. Plus, for wide-angle shooting, the S1R2 has a new cropless mode that corrects perspective distortion during stabilization that can appear while shooting with wide-angle lenses. And when using anamorphic lenses, it can now correct for roll blur, and the electronic high mode that does the most stabilization with image crop is now available when shooting anamorphic. A new focus tracking mode automatically grabs a subject as it enters a watch zone, meaning you can now easily lock onto a subject without having to press the button or tap the screen at just the right time to select it. Simply position the focus frame where you expect the subject to appear, and as soon as something enters the frame, the camera will lock onto it. And it can also instantly learn the features of a subject that you tap on and track that person as they move among other people, or even out and back into frame. The S1R2 also, of course, supports all the human, animal, car, motorcycle, train, and airplane modes we've seen in the other current LUMIX cameras. For studio shooters, Capture One Tethering is natively supported for the first time. Not much else to say here, but this is a first for LUMIX cameras. For those who use in-camera proxy generation, proxies are now generated at the same aspect ratio as the original file instead of at standard ratios with letterboxing. And of course, the S1R2 supports Frame.io integration as well. There's a new false color option, which displays exposure levels as solid colors, making it really easy to nail exposure on the run. A shutter speed limiter lets you set a minimum shutter speed when shooting video in shutter speed mode instead of shutter angle to ensure that you don't inadvertently dial in a super long shutter speed and unintentionally drag the shutter. The LCD is the most flexible on a LUMIX yet. It tilts up and down like the original S1R did, but it tilts even farther, and it rotates out while tilting to avoid HDMI and USB cables. It's like the best of the S1R and the GH7 combined. There's a new mode switch to move between photo, video, and SNQ modes. That's the slow and quick for slow motion or high-speed shooting. That means you no longer have to go into a software menu to change between manual, aperture, and shutter priority when in video mode, since these are now on separate dials. But more importantly, every single customizable button on the camera, including the C modes for storing complete setting configurations, can be uniquely programmed for each shooting mode. If you don't want them to be different, you can program them to be the same in all shooting modes. LUMIX cameras have always been amazingly customizable, and this just makes it even more so. There's a new battery grip, the DMW BG2, for vertical grip shooting and when you want dual batteries. You can tell the camera to use either battery first, and you can hot swap the grip battery without powering down the camera. Dual batteries also supply enough power for high frame rate recording to SSD, which would otherwise require the DCC-18 power adapter as it does for the GH7. There's a new shutter closing function where you can direct the camera to close the shutter when it's powered off, protecting the sensor. Historically, the shutter has remained open when off, exposing the sensor to the elements when changing lenses. To round off some specs, the S1R2 supports the XLR2 and 32-bit float internal audio recording, making it the second Lumix camera to offer that, along with the GH7. It supports an ISO range of 80 to 51,200 or 40 to 102,400 in extended mode. It supports real-time LUT and everything that the Lumix Lab app has to offer, including remote control, LUT transfer, geotagging, and more. It's dual native ISO, includes the new crop zoom and hybrid zoom features just added to all the other Lumix full-frame cameras, is dust, splash, and freeze resistant, and its dual media slots are one SD and one CF Express Type B card, which you need for ProRes RAW or anything above 800 megabits per second. You can also opt to shoot to SSD over USB for those higher bitrate formats. The camera weighs 795 grams, which is just 55 grams heavier than the S5 II or S5 IIX, and a considerable 221 grams lighter than its predecessor, the S1RII. It's almost identically sized to the S5 II and S5 IIX at exact same height and width, and just 1.7 millimeters deeper on the grip. Finally, we get to the new Lumix Flow app. I'll do a dedicated video on this once I have the camera, but this is an all-new iOS and Android app to build storyboards and shot lists, which when connected to the camera while shooting, will organize your clips via an XML file once you import into your NLE. The app also turns your smartphone into an external monitor. Lumix Flow is initially compatible only with the S1R2 and is expected to be compatible with the S5 II, S5 IIX, and GH7 in the future. That's the new Lumix S1R2, the first 8K Lumix camera with a ton of new features and a retail price of $32.99, shipping in March 2025.